you're never guaranteed the next step.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're only guaranteed what they specifically tell you you're guaranteed. So just because you apply doesn't mean you get to audition. Just because you audition doesn't mean you get to film. Just because you film doesn't mean you get to air. Just because you air doesn't, you know what I mean? Like all these steps, like the next one is not guaranteed until it happens, essentially.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
All right, so welcome to another edition of the Matt Woolley Podcast. Please like and subscribe. Today we have an awesome guest and friend of mine, Chad Lee.
Kill me with pauses.
Thank you for being here, Chad.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so for those that don't know who Chad Lee is, we're going to run through the resume here. So Chad Lee, he is the graduate of University of Central Oklahoma, Business and Administration. He's a graduate of Oklahoma City University, Masters of Business Administration. Basically got into product management focus, being a I'll be able to talk
product
development. He was product manager for core wiring at Jasco Products, and then global category product manager for the Coleman Company. Then, Chad, it appears you got into sales and marketing.
Found my true calling.
True calling.
That's right.
National account manager and global product manager for Doskasil Manufacturing. How do you say that?
PetMate. Most people know it as PetMate.
PetMate.
So the Chuck It, the ball launchers.
Yeah.
And some of those types of things. They have a house of brands. They have a lot of brands. Great company.
Okay. All right. Well, you were also a national account executive and team lead for Sam's Club, Sam's Club's International and Omnichannel for Hallmark Cards. Yep. Director of Sales and Marketing at Next Grill Industries. Sales Director at Jasco Products. Vice President of Sales at Phoenix Marketing and Consulting, founder and CEO of Endeavor Retail, and co-founder and president of Foam.
That's right. I don't like to stay still, apparently.
Yes, you have. This is quite the resume. So let's go back a bit. So, Chad, I'm going to assume you're an Oklahoma native?
That's right. Oklahoma State fan, Oklahoma native. I grew up in Midwest City, Oklahoma. If anyone knows where that's at, it's adjacent to Oklahoma City. Tinker Air Force Base is what most people know it for. It's a big military base there. But grew up there, spent 27 years of my life there, so most of my life there. And then when we started going through some of these jobs, part of the reason there's a lot of different roles is my wife and I took a job with Coleman. Mm-hmm. We moved to Wichita, Kansas, and within 6 months, the Coleman Company moved the operations to Denver. Mm-hmm. And so we got moved to Denver. That started a kind of a cascading effect of, man, this is way too far from our family. And we had our first son, and we were like, we want to get back closer to home. So we essentially had to start looking for opportunities that would move us towards Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know we were going to be in Arkansas specifically. It was like, was it Oklahoma? Was it Kansas again? But her parents, they showed an interest in moving to Arkansas, or moving to Northwest Arkansas from Northeast. And so we kind of made a little agreement that if they moved to Bentonville, we'd move to Bentonville. And so we started I started to take roles that would allow that to happen. And we got here, and we've been here ever since, and we love it. It's a great...
Northwest Arkansas is a great place. And how long have you been here now?
Oh, gosh. I mean, it's been close to 10, 11, 12 years, somewhere in that ballpark.
Nice. So, yeah, I've been here since 2002, and yeah, it's crazy. And I know in the past 12 years, it's crazy. I mean, you talk to the old timers around here, and they're like, yeah, I remember when this was nothing but cow pasture.
Yeah, chicken coops and cow pastures.
Well, let's go back a little bit. You kind of gave us an overview of, from there to here. But what was like life growing up for Chad, and he said it was Midwest City.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard of Midwest City. Where's that located?
So if we pretend that this is a map of Oklahoma,
Uh-huh.
and the Panhandle's over there. Oklahoma City's in the middle. Midwest City would be like right here.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of
It's like 10, 15 minutes from.
So is it is it like rural or is it suburb?
No.
Were you suburb?
It was definitely a suburb / military base. I had a stepfather who was in the reserves. Pretty much everyone I knew had some kind of family member, friend, or or themselves that were in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I was never served myself, and I'm very grateful for all those who have. But that was what it was like. It was essentially, there was the military base, a GM plant where they built the Suburbans and some other things, and that was really it. Other than that, it was your typical Oklahoma suburb. So,
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. So
cool city.
Growing up, there was a military influence.
Absolutely.
So did that define? So I know a bunch of. I'm not military.
Neither am I.
Right. But I didn't grow up with military around. I know a lot of guys that have. Did that affect you at all? I mean, was there that military protocol that exist in your house?
Not necessarily. My and we can get into it, but my background growing up is rather sketch, and we can talk a little bit about that. But the military aspect of it was a very positive thing for me. It was not like your cliche, oh, they've got a military parent and everything's super strict and there's rules. And all that.
Right.
That was not my experience. The military, being close to the base, instilled in me a great love for what the military does. And for all the service that all the members of the military do. And so I had a very positive experience and continue to have a very positive experience. A lot of the people that I grew up with around have gone on to do ridiculously amazing things, whether they're lieutenant colonels in the military or whether they're working in D.C. or one of my friends, her brother, he was quite a few years younger than me, so I didn't really get to know him too much personally, but I knew their family well. He's currently a Blue Angel.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, we had a very positive experience, I guess, is how I'd sum it up.
All right. So, look, you baited the hook.
Not.
So you said you were kind of sketch. What do you mean by sketch?
Yeah. So my background was, and I'll kind of, I don't want to be one of those people who make it seem like their life is worse than everyone else's because.
Hey, real quick, before we get up into that, let me say this. Number one, I don't know what you're about to share, but I appreciate you sharing that and being transparent. Everybody there's so many people out there, and that's part of what this podcast is about, honestly, is success stories. Not everything's easy in anything, right? And I think that what people need to hear more of is the trials and tribulations that people go through to experience that success, and that's inspiring. So I don't even know. I've known you for 2 years. You've never told me this, so this is going to be a surprise to me.
Yeah.
But man, please share for
My background is not something I ever hide, but it's also something I'm very willing to talk about because I will tell you, I have been able to achieve the things I've been able to achieve for two real primary reasons. One, the willingness to be vulnerable and just put things out there. And then two, the willingness to ask for help. I will, and whatever that means. I mean, it could be help like, it could be help like I am in a certain situation and I really need to be pulled out of it. Or it could be something like, hey, I've got to move a bunch of stuff to set up for a party. I got a friend who has a truck that what if you let me borrow? It could be any of those things, And so I think
that's great.
Two really important things.
That's great.
And be
Man, let's start right there. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing because that is truth. Because vulnerability shows that you're not an invincible human being.
Absolutely.
There's a humility in that. And then also, that's one of my favorite sayings, which it comes from the Bible, but it's true. You have not because ye ask not. It's what I mean, and that it's as simple as that. Life is a lot of I believe life is a lot of yes and no answers. And if it's no, that door closes and then you move on.
Yeah.
But you'll never know unless you ask.
That's right.
Anyway, so keep going. This is great.
Yeah. So let's just dive right in. So the summary is, and maybe someday I'll write a book, but the summary is my background was full of, not for myself personally, but drugs, alcohol, domestic violence, child abuse, all the boxes, you know. And my mom, she was a wonderful mom, made a lot of really great decisions, would do anything for her kids, you know, best mom I could ask for. But she could not make a good decision when it came to a partner to save her life, you know. And so that was a big challenge, you know. She was married, I think, 4 or 5 times. I'm not even sure. And throughout all those marriages, there was different challenges, whether it be alcoholism or whether it be drug addictions or whether it be, you know, someone that likes to lay their hands on kids or whether it be, you know, those kind of things. And so you know, I went through years and years of that, me and my 3 siblings, and got to a point where, and I'll fast forward a little bit, got to a point where when I was 16 years old, I found an organization in high school called DECA. It's a Distributive Education Clubs of America. It's like a marketing, like an FFA for business.
Kind of.
I got involved in that and loved it and probably saved my life, and dove right into that and went to a national competition for that in California. First time I'd ever done anything like that. First time I'd ever been on a plane. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Anyways, before I left, I told my mom, I said, hey, if you and my stepdad at the time are like, listen, if the 2 of you get in a fight while I'm gone, then I'm gone. And no lie, no exaggeration. I come back after the trip. I'm land at the airport. I come out and my parents aren't there. My teacher at the time was like, hey, do I need to wait with you? I'm like, no, they'll be here. It's fine. Just running behind. So my mom, I called my stepdad at the time because my mom was dancing, and he said, yeah, your mom and I got in a fight. She's on her way to pick you up. I said, okay. And then she shows up finally. She's driving my car at the time, which was nothing to brag about. It was an 83 Oldsmobile Omega, like a solid metal tank. And it was like maroon.
Indestructible.
Yeah. I think we paid $300 for it. It was amazing. But the car was all filthy. You could tell that she'd either been sleeping in it or staying in it or something. And she was wearing glasses because she had a black eye, which was not uncommon. And she drove us to the house, and you know, they got out, and I just kind of, there's something in my brain clicked, and I just said, I'm sitting in my car with my suitcase. And so I just said I left. And so I went to my grandmother's house and never went back home.
Oh, wow.
Not to live. I obviously went back to get things or visit or try to help or whatever. I still had 3 siblings there.
But you removed yourself from that.
I removed myself from the equation. And it was one of the hardest things I had to do because there's a big part of me that felt like I was leaving my siblings behind. But it was also, there was a part of me that if I didn't do it, I would not have been in a position to be able to ever help. And later in life, you know, my siblings have all grown into be wonderful people. They have families.
That's great.
They have great jobs. My mom has since passed away. I think she had a stroke or it was pneumonia, I think it was, that ultimately did her in. And then my stepdad, he moved off to Florida and lives with his mom. You know, so everyone's kind of dispersed and everyone's in a good spot now. But it was chaotic, you know. But it was an important lesson pulling myself out of that situation and feeling like I'm abandoning people I care about, but also knowing that if I didn't do something for myself, I was not going to be able to do anything for anyone else ever. And so that's what I did. And then from that point on, I had to lean on a lot of other people for help. My grandmother, my mom still helped me when she could, but my grandmother did a lot for me. I mean, more than I could ever, you know, pay back or explain. I had some phenomenal teachers that helped guide me and helped, you know, shepherd me to, you know, certain things, like certain organizations. I got involved in some Christian organizations. I got involved in, obviously, DECA was the big one. I ended up becoming state president of DECA for the state of Oklahoma while I was in high school. And that was a really cool experience. And then, that was kind of where it was. And then ultimately I got to the end of high school and it was, what do you do now? And a girl I was dating at the time, her mom was like, well, I'll help arrange for you to go to college. I'm like, well, listen, I'm not the college type. At least I didn't think I was. I don't have the means for college, the money. My grades were okay. I think I was like a 3.1 or something. I mean, I was not a 4.0 honor student or anything.
Right.
But anyway, she was like, well, I think you should talk to this person at this local community college, Rose State College. And so I started off at a community college, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I got involved in a leadership program there and got involved in student government and got to do some really cool stuff, even got involved in some political stuff, and all the way up to where I was I think I was like vice president of the student association there. I was on the president's leadership class scholarship eventually. And then I even got to drive in the vice president, Dick Cheney. I got to drive in his motorcade. I drive a press van in his motorcade and meet him and take a picture with him. So I kind of blossomed, I guess, to some degree in college, and really loved all that stuff.
So, number one, that's an amazing story. And, I think that there's a lot of people, you hear the stories and, without getting off into it, statistically, you're kind of an anomaly in a lot of ways, because not everybody that has trials and tribulations of that nature comes out on the other end. Now, I'm not saying you can't, but what do you think, what was the driving force behind coming out of a situation like that? What was the driving force that kept pushing you forward? Because here's the reality. There's a lot of people that, have, and it's okay. I'm glad that, there's nothing wrong with it when I say these, but they have means. They have a safety net.
Yeah.
But it appears that you didn't have much of a safety net.
Yeah.
So what was it that, kept you going?
I would say, I mean, my personal faith is a big part of it, which I would say I didn't really know what faith was until I got probably into close to college. I mean, I would say church was one thing, faith was a different thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so that was a piece, but I would say the other thing was just, I don't know. I just was never content with the situation I was in. And I knew I had to do something to get out of it. And because I didn't have means in terms of like money or, influential parents, but, I always go back to those two things that have really attributed to my success outside of my faith and the blessings I've been given. But the being vulnerable and being willing to go up to somebody and say like, hey, look, this is what happened last night or whatever. This is what I need. Can you help? And then, but doing it in such a way that when you get that help, you do something with that help. You know what I mean? But again, being vulnerable and asking for help. Those are the two things I'll always come back to. I would never hesitate to ask a teacher for help. And I'm not saying money or anything like that. I just mean like if you needed something.
So if somebody asks you for help, ask Chad Lee today for help, do you feel a purposeful drive to, commit to helping?
Absolutely. I mean, if it's within my means and my sphere of influence, I would absolutely do anything I could to try to help. And
that's really what it's all about.
Well, and we'll talk a little bit about this with phone, but part of where phone came from was David and I's willingness to ask other people for favors and then also do favors and kind of just like help each other. I mean, that's what this whole thing, that's what this, it sounds cheesy, but that's what we're all doing here on this earth, is trying to help and serve each other. That's what it all kind of really boils down to.
100%. We're just in the full in the history timeline. We truly are, like the Bible says, we're just but a vapor. And I think that's great. What a blessed story too. Praise God for that. And thank you for sharing.
I would help somebody. And the last thing I would say, and I know I'm a talker, so
no, that's all right. Hey, no, that's why we are limited to an hour just today. We can do two next time.
Well, there you go. No, I'll sum it up with this. I don't want anyone to ever think like, everyone's got trials and tribulations, and they affect people differently. Some people can handle more of a burden than others. The important thing is not, it matters not what your trials and tribulations are, and it matters more that you go ask for help and you push your way through it. That's what matters the most. So there's a lot of people out there dealing with a lot of things. And I can tell you, from someone who came from that to someone who's now 41 and, kind of I'm still going through stuff. Yeah, there's still stuff going on.
Right.
It never stops. So you just got to keep helping each other.
That's awesome. Okay, well, let's talk about career Chad for just a moment. Sure. I do want to finish up today, really diving into the phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so let's transition. So you go to college, you love it. Now it looks like you decided you're going to do a master's as well. So you keep pushing that education.
Did that at night while I was working at Jasco.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
double duty.
I'll tell you, it was one of the best experiences ever, though, because the teachers that I had at night were adjunct teachers, meaning they had day jobs, like real jobs.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to teachers, that's all they do. But like these were people that were coming from their day job to teach a business class. And I was coming from my day job to attend a business class. And so we had real world experiences.
That's awesome.
That we could really talk about.
Yeah, go back. That's great.
It was amazing.
That's great. So so you start out at Jasco. Let's kind of go through that history of Jasco going into the Coleman Company. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, Jasco, and I'll give them a shameless plug just because anyone who's known me for more than 5 minutes knows I love that company and the family that runs it and owns it, the team there and everyone. They've done so much for me and just the mentorship and you'll notice I worked there twice.
Yes.
There's a reason for that. I mean, I would do anything I could to help them. They're just amazing people. They have built their company in a very faithful, very amazing way. They actually give, I think it's like 50% of their profits go to charity.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they're an amazing company. But I worked there. I started off as an assistant product manager, making $30,000 a year. Funny short story for the audience out there. I'll tell you, I learned my first negotiation. I can't talk. Strategy there. They offered me $29,000, and I said, and I went back to the gentleman at the time. His name was Jay. I said, hey, I was like, I really had my heart set on this. I really need to be in the 30s. And in my head, I'm thinking 35, 37. And he goes, okay, I'll give you 30. I was like, oh, crud. So I learned right then and there, be very specific in what you're asking for. Because he did what I asked.
He did give you what you asked for.
And so I just felt like I was like, okay, fine. So I took that and very humbling lesson, but very important lesson. I'll always remember that. But I learned all about product management, about sourcing, how to work a brand, how to design a product. We have to work with amazing people, engineers, packaging designers. I will tell you, product managers are essentially just they're like a hub on a wheel. We kind of do everything, but we also kind of do nothing. It's everyone else that does all the real hard work. The engineers, the packaging designers, the sourcing teams. Those are the unsung heroes that really give us the pieces that allow us to then put a product out there. Outside of that, it's just an idea. And so I loved that field, and I thought I would do that field forever. And honestly, I thought I'd work at Jasco forever. Fast forward to I got contacted by a recruiter, and we just given an opportunity to work at Coleman, which I loved the brand.
Yeah, iconic brand.
And they wanted me to start out by doing grills, which I love to barbecue. And I was like, okay, so now I can do all this. I can do the job I love on products I really love. I was like, and they made me an offer that financially just kind of changed the trajectory of mine and my wife's life. Because by that time I'd met her and we were married and living in Oklahoma, that I had to take it. And so we took it. And it was painful to leave Jasco, but at the same time, I had to try to take that growth opportunity. And took that. worked there for, I was almost 2-3 years. And then they moved the Coleman company to Colorado. And as I'd mentioned, that was really far from our family. And by that time we had our first son. And so we just needed to move back. And so that's why there's a lot of shorter stint jobs on the resume, because I had to kind of do what I had to do to get back where I was. But that's the product development side of me.
Let's talk about the sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Your forte.
I was going to say, like, it's interesting how I got into that.
Okay.
So I was working at PetMate at the time. The CEO, her name was Alice. She had a book called, I can't remember the name of the book now, Strength Finder.
Oh, yeah.
And
Great book.
She
very helpful
she
book.
put an opportunity out there for anyone that wanted to do it. She'd buy the book and let them do it. So I did it. And, got my traits, my 5 traits and everything. And she called me in her office one day. And this is after like working there for a year or 2 years or something. And she calls me in her office. She goes, Chad, I don't know that I've ever really seen anyone that's had the same top trait as me. And
Which one was it?
The woo.
Yeah, that's my top one.
There you go. There you go. She's like, why aren't you in sales? And I was like, well, I've just never had an opportunity. Like I've never just, I don't know. I don't know why I'm not in sales. And she's like, well, you go on a lot of sales calls. You know, like as a product manager, you go on a lot of sales calls to do this stuff. I'm like, well, yeah, I know. It's an interesting idea. And she goes, well, would you ever want to do it with PetMate? And I was like, yeah. Well, I was like, honestly, my wife and I would love to move to Bentonville. Her parents have told us that they would meet us there if we did. And she goes, well, would you want to do it with PetMate? And I was like, yeah. And so I'm thinking, okay, we'll work our way there like in a couple of years and kind of learn. She pulls me in, I don't know how long it was, a couple of days later or something. She goes, can you be there in 60 days? And I was like, well, yeah, we'll figure it out. So I came here early, lived with my wife's aunt for a while and jumped into the sales and marketing there. And then one thing I learned about this town was that the time in seat was a lot shorter than as a product manager. As a product manager, you could be in that role for 5, 10 years, whatever. Time in seat in a sales role here is a lot shorter than I ever expected. And it's because of a lot of reasons. I mean, it could be because a company gets bought by a different private equity firm and is restructuring. It could be numbers aren't hitting what they need to be, or it could just be, honestly, personalities, like a salesperson with a merchant. There's change could happen for a million reasons. But so I ended up leaving PetMate at one point and then kind of went through a couple different companies. And then, ultimately, after I learned the ropes, that's when we started Endeavor Retail here this year.
Nice. And
essentially, Endeavor Retail is just me helping select clients with their Walmart business. Very boutique, only have a handful of clients. Really kind of do that as a kind of like a quote unquote day job, so to speak, while we kick off this foam thing, which has been a lot of fun.
But what is, speaking of, Endeavor Retail, I mean, okay, obviously you understand, let's talk about this just for a second. You understand the product man. I keep saying project management.
That's what
it is project management.
It is.
But product management. So you obviously have a backbone and an act for that. You have a backbone for sales and marketing, which is pretty potent combination as far as bringing that to table. So what do you, as far as Endeavor Retail, are you doing product representation? Are you filling in the gaps, like saying, hey, like this is great, but you might want to think about this? Or, I mean, kind of give us
It kind of depends on a client's need. It could be something as small as we're just their local representation, because maybe they don't have an office here or there's someone here and they need someone to run samples or do this or that. Like I'm not above or beyond anything, so whether I'm just dropping off samples at LSC.
Well, I know you use a jack. The reason why I left that open in because I know you use a jack of all trades is in retail. In retail. And so that's why I was like, give us an idea.
Yeah.
What's the,
but I would say our specialty would be working with a merchant, trying to kind of manage the book of business, and then helping to prepare for line reviews and strategy for that. We can certainly help with like operational things, whether it's managing POs or PO maintenance, or whether it's running sales reports weekly or whatever. The areas that we don't do, and we have strategic partners like yourself and others, are things around anything to do with like retail display, content creation, photography, videography, any of that. We don't touch any of that kind of stuff.
Basically everything that we do.
Yeah, we don't. Well, we try to be for the Endeavor retail piece. We try to be very specific to the things that we know we're good at and deliver on.
Right.
But we could fumble our way through other things, but there's people that are much better suited for those things than we are.
Right.
And there's enough business and there's enough people in this town that it just makes more sense to refer people around.
Go with what you know and refer,
Yeah, but I would say that's where we really focus, kind of more that carry the bag person. Really work with the merchants. I love working with merchants. I mean, I like looking at a modular and looking for white space and opportunity, and working with the merchant to try to figure out what we could do to like increase the productivity or the sales of their mod. And I think that's a lot of fun because part of the reason I enjoy that is because it lets me invoke the product management side of my brain. Because if we I'll just give you an example, but let's say I'm working with a merchant on mod X, and there's a slow moving item, and I see something amazing on TikTok, like a really that I know is flying off the shelf and it has good sales on Amazon or whatever. Because of my product management background and my sourcing background, I can work with that merchant on a national brand and or a national or a private brand to help them get that gap or get that product. And I know Walmart has fantastic sourcing teams and fantastic product management teams. So I'm not saying that I would do all that for them, but I can certainly help them.
Provide insight.
Yeah, because I know the one thing we all know about anyone who works at Walmart is that they're all stretched really thin. And so anytime you can help give them guidance or give them support to make something easier on them, that's
the name of the game.
It's helpful.
Everybody likes somebody that can make their life just a little easier.
That right there. That's a whole chapter in a book. I mean, you're 100% on. Yeah.
Okay, so let's transition now. You said that you brought a gift.
Yeah,
for me and the viewers today.
Yeah, well, and we, you've seen these before, but I don't think I've actually given you one. And since you were so kind to let us use your truck to move a bunch of these, we wanted to bring you your own foam.
Amazing.
And just so happens the color is
Design Styles. That is our brand color. That's the most beautiful cooler I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, well, we could. The only thing it probably needs is we do have some coming in that we can put the Design Style logo on. This is just packaging; it can come off. But yeah, you've seen a little bit about this.
So let's talk about it. So let's get into it. So I know because we've worked together some on it, and we've got the time. So but there's a lot to tell. So let's start from the beginning. So we know where Chad is, with Endeavor, but where in the world what is a foam cooler, and where in the world did the idea for the foam cooler come about?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'll say is it's not styrofoam, because that's the first thing everybody always asks is, it's a styrofoam cooler. No, it's not. And we'll talk about that. So the idea, I can't take credit for the idea or the design. That comes from my business partner, David. He's a
great guy.
Oh, fantastic guy. Great hair.
Great hair. Yeah, absolutely.
But no, he's an amazing designer. He's designed products he's kind of a man behind the scenes of a lot of products. We worked together at Coleman, and he was an industrial designer there. Long story short, he got to a point where he wanted to start his own design firm, and he did. And then he started designing products for a lot of companies. So he's worked with everybody from, you should do a podcast with just him sometime, because of his story is so interesting. He's done everything from baby carriers for like the company Tush Baby to roller coaster parts and things in between.
Wow.
Because that's what an industrial designer's job is. They're given like hey, I have this idea, maybe I sketched it out on a napkin or whatever it is, and they make it a real thing. So anyways, fast forward, he does his design firm for, I don't know, 6-8 years and loves what he does. But then he kind of has this click in his brain where he's like, I'm doing all these designs for all these people, and they're taking them and then going and selling them and making all kinds of money and changing the world and doing this and that. He's like,
I know the feeling.
why don't I just do it myself? And David is not and David and I both are this way, but he's not a do it himself kind of person. He's very much a collaborative worker. And so him and some friends started working on the idea of like, what should we do? What could we do? Ultimately, he got it narrowed down to a cooler because he has a background in that from Coleman. And there was just a huge opportunity in this space. I mean, if you look at the cooler industry, the thing about it is it's a hot mess. And everyone's doing the same thing. Everyone's chasing Yeti, or everyone's going to the other side of the price spectrum and they're knocking off Igloo or Coleman. Yeah, that's kind of the two areas. No one's really doing anything completely different and completely out of the box. And that's where his idea came in was, I just want to simplify coolers. Like, I don't need pockets. I don't need zippers. I don't need them to be super heavy. They don't have to be bear proof. They don't have to hold ice for 10 days. Like, gosh, if I'm stuck anywhere that I have to eat and drink out of a cooler for 10 days, that's probably a problem. So he just wanted to do something different. Fast forward, he posted a thing on LinkedIn that had the design of it, and he starts talking about it on LinkedIn, and I saw it, and I had this moment where I was just like, I know that's going to be something. Like, I know that can be something. And so I messaged him and I said, hey, I want in on this. You've got something here. You know the product. You know the design. I know sales. I know retail. We could figure everything else out. So we got together and started partnering on it, and created Foam, the company, incorporated it, created the brand language, the ideas, all the stuff with it. And it's essentially an EVA cooler. EVA is a material called ethylene vinyl acetate. It's a very rigid but soft material. So I'll just give you a quick example here without breaking this TV.
Be careful with my cooler.
There you go. It's hard and firm.
Yeah,
but also
flexible.
Very flexible. And it's a similar material. It's the same substrate as a croc, like the shoe.
Oh, nice.
But not exactly the same formulation. It's like saying plastic.
So you can't. So basically, you can't kill this thing. I mean, it's going to take a lot.
It's going to take a lot of heat, honestly, because you're not going to freeze it. Like, you could put dry ice in it. That's fine. You could run over it with a steamroller. I can tell you a little bit about that. You can drop it off the building. The only thing that I would say might be its weakness would be in extreme heat. If you drop it like a volcano, it's going to melt.
The only thing, that type of material, the only thing I think that would hurt it is super heat, or someone actually just stabbing the mess out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go all Steven Skull on it with a samurai sword, you could probably get through it, But I don't know that
stuff is resilient.
It is. It's very resilient, and and
it's lightweight.
It's 4 pounds. So I mean, it's incredibly lightweight. You could easily hold it. Now, obviously, I tell people this all the time, because people are like, oh, it's a lightweight cooler, and then they fill it up with ice and drinks, and like, oh, it's so heavy. I'm like, we haven't figured the technology out yet on how to make the things inside the cooler lighter. So when you fill this up with your favorite beverages and your ice or whatever, it's still gonna be
any cooler. Just heavy. It's not some vortex that.
It's right. There's no like
de-weight thing.
Level science there. But
I can't believe it. I put 20 pounds of Cokes in this thing. This thing weighs 24 pounds.
Hey, math's hard. That's hard. So. I get it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so the reason the company is called Foam is because, and a lot of this because we have talked about the brand, but we're not going to be a cooler company per se. It's more of a company that makes amazing, simple, fun products out of this material. And so I don't want to get, because we do live in Bentonville, and I don't know who watches this, and I don't want to give a product development roadmap to everybody. I won't say everything that we're going to make, but I will say we will have different versions of coolers. But maybe we'll do a Frisbee. Maybe we'll do a stadium seat. Who knows? We'll do all kinds of stuff out of this material as long as it falls into that realm of fun, simple material.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
and you guys kind of have you guys have kind of created your own, following and culture. Because I know that you guys have done, which we'll get off into this in a second, but I know that you guys started. I don't want to say simply, but I mean you guys started very conservative in your. When you first started building this product out, and you've got like stuff like you've got your own social media platforms and your own groups that you test stuff off of. I mean, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we don't have big investors. We don't have someone who's dropping 7 figures on us or something like that where we can just go and just do stuff. So everything that's being done thus far has been funded by David and I, and our families. So we have to be very intentional and very thoughtful in what we do. And so, one of those things that we've had to do is like when we designed, I'll just give you an example. When we designed this packaging, we have a Facebook group of about 600 people that were part of our initial Indiegogo campaign. And we just designed 4 different concepts ourselves. And then we put it out to the group and asked them for their input and help and tweaked it. Now, would we have loved to come and commission Designstein just to do it and make it easy and take our hands off of it? Sure. But we just weren't in a financial position at the time where we could do something like that. So we had to be very, thoughtful about that. And to this day, we still utilize that Facebook group for, hey, we're thinking about this color, or we're looking at doing red. Which red should we do? And whatever it is. And so we utilize them for that. It is a closed group, but anybody that wants to be in there can certainly just go to Facebook, type in foam cooler, and just answer the questions. And we're not closed.
Where can people? Because you guys do sell these online.
Yeah.
So where can people find? And what is your product selection beyond coolers, which you kind of alluded to? Have you guys? I know I'm not sure. I'm not in on the know on everything because I know that you've talked to me about certain things, but I don't know about what we can.
Right now, we're really focused on the cooler.
Okay.
Because we found that there's a lot of things we can do, not just with the colors, but also with the attachments and things that go on the cooler.
Yeah. Very accessorized.
Yeah, accessorized. We could do. We added a shoulder strap because some people prefer a shoulder strap over this hand carry one. We're looking at some ice subs that snap in the lid.
It's awesome.
Because this thing is incredibly durable, holds ice for about 6 to 8 hours, give or take, depending on the situation, and it floats, which is one of the coolest things people like about it. There's just a lot of different things we could do with it. So we're playing around with all that, trying to figure out what that looks like. We have a couple trade shows coming up that we're going to be at. But as far as like where people can buy it, you can go to foamcooler.com or foamisfun.com, either one. It's on sale on a number of websites. So you could just like Google Shopping foam cooler. It'll pop up. You'll find prices vary a little bit. We try to be like we put this on our website at $125, which is exactly half the price of a similar size soft-sided Yeti. Now I understand, and I tell people this all the time. They're like, well, I can go to Walmart or Target or wherever, and I could buy a $4 styrofoam cooler. You 100% can. And if that's your use case, and that's what you need, then by all means. But my kind of one-liner I tell people is that you can get a cooler that's half this size for double this price, and you can get a cooler that's double this size for half this price. Like it's just the cooler market's all over the place. But
the thing I see about this that I've said since day one is that especially in a time when everybody's looking to continually reuse, a low environmental impact, something like this, people throw you pay this money for a cooler, but then the lid breaks. What do they do with it?
You're out.
You're gone. But something like this, which we'll get off into some of the testing you guys have put this through, but this is something that lasts forever. Like it really, it's gonna take a lot to make this thing go away.
Yeah, I hesitate to say that it's, I don't like using the word indestructible with anything, but it's probably as close as you can get without just being a straight chunk of steel. But it's for what it does and for what it, for all the things it can withstand. It's a fantastic material. EVA is kind of like what silicone was 20 years ago. Silicone is now in everything. I think EVA will make its way into everything. It's a really durable material. It has a lot of, for us, we took all those things you're talking about, like if your lid breaks or whatever, we took all that off this. There's no zippers. There's no hinge to break. There's nothing like, if your strap breaks, we'll just send you a new strap. But like your cooler's not going to break. Like I said, unless you just like samurai sword it or something.
Well, you can use it's multiple use too. The thing I thought about too is a guy that's got some. I wouldn't call myself a prepper, but I've been heavily involved with that community with some of the products we've had to market. Like this is like the ultimate. I know foam is fun, but something like this is infinite in multiple uses and indestructibility. Well, this is, you could draw water with this thing.
There's a lot of uses that we've dreamed up. We've talked about making a bladder for it. And then you could take we could sell a little kit with like a spout and a plug. And you could put a bladder in there and just drill a hole somewhere on here and use this to be like a big wine box or whatever you want it for.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that we want to do and we'll look at doing, but we just got to kind of pace ourselves. But a
lot of possibilities.
Yeah, and I know you're gonna want to get into this too, but with the Shark Tank.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's just go straight ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of really poured a lot of gas on everything we're doing. I will tell you, just for the viewers out there that don't know, just because you go on Shark Tank, just because you get a deal, doesn't mean that you're rich and everything's easy. Like if anything, we're more broke now than we ever were, and things are a lot harder because there's a lot more eyeballs and a lot more demand.
Yeah.
We went from, at the watch party that we had down at the Meteor downtown, we went from, I think it was, we would average like dozens of people on our website a day, like literally dozens. I mean, not a lot. I think we peaked out at like 23,000 just in that one night.
Wow.
Like it was crazy watching it go. I mean, the eyeballs that you get. And so that was an experience for us that was a lot of fun.
Well, let's walk through that process of what you can, because I know that Shark Tank is a little tight-lipped on certain things.
Sure.
So how did that happen? Did you say, hey, I want to be on Shark Tank, let's go for it?
Yeah, no, it really kind of started in being mindful of the time here, because there's a lot about this, and we could do a deeper dive on the Shark Tank in a later episode with David. That would be interesting. But the summary of it was David's designed some products for other companies that have been on Shark Tank, and so we kind of got recommended to them. And then once we were recommended, then we had like a kind of an initial audition thing, or screening call or whatever you want to call it. And they loved the product. They loved the story. They loved us. And they said, yeah, let's start you through the process. And their process, I mean, it's a big process. And we can't talk much about the process. But I can tell you, we learned so much about our company during the process because of the vetting and all the things that go on and the things you have to prepare and all this, just to get ready to do the show. You learn a lot about your company. And I will tell you, pre-Shark Tank, it was kind of like we were teetering on, are we a company or are we just like a bunch of dudes with a hobby and lots of debt? We're trying to figure out what we were. But then post Shark Tank, we, after going through everything and learning all the stuff we did, I would say we're full on company now, and we don't have any employees per se, but we do have a really great team of we have Melissa, who does our marketing, Jessica, who's kind of our money person, and then Nick, who does a lot of our sales, and then David and I. That's kind of the core team. But then, beyond that, going back to the thing I said earlier about being vulnerable and asking for help, the amount of people that have helped us in little ways is just, I couldn't even begin to create a list. I mean, I think at our watch party at the Meteor, we had probably, I don't know, 150, 200 people there, which doesn't sound like a lot. But
it's a lot.
And it's just amazing how everyone has kind of joined our journey to some degree and contributed to help us in their own little ways, you know? So it's been really cool. But jumping back to Shark Tank, that process was really educational. Learned a lot of prep that had to go into it. You know, you go through the one thing that, and this is not a secret, you know, you can see this if you just Google it. You're never guaranteed the next step. You know, you're only guaranteed what they specifically tell you you're guaranteed. So just because you apply doesn't mean you get to audition. Just because you audition doesn't mean you get to film. Just because you film doesn't mean you get to air. Just because you air doesn't, you know what I mean? Like all these steps, like the next one is not guaranteed until it happens, essentially. And so we didn't know we were going to air until it was a matter of weeks that we got an email that said you're going to air. And we were just like, oh, well, we thought, you know, it's a cooler. We thought it might be in the spring, you know, and now we're going right before holiday. And that was chaotic. We had the boutique show here. My family was leaving for Disney the week after. We had this, like, it was just like, it was a lot at one time. And so, yeah.
Was that surreal, like being on set with these personalities that people know, these you know, the entrepreneurs themselves and very successful business people, you know, somewhat scrutinizing you, you know, trying to poke holes or work you over.
Yeah, to some degree. I will say we had one of the things we pride ourselves on is we did not go into the Shark Tank process looking to create conflict. We went into the whole process looking to create a great experience, show our fantastic products, sell people in the company. And so we, like, when you could tell when you watch the show, sometimes you can see like, oh, so-and-so's, they're saying it that way just to try to like get a reaction, to invoke a reaction. I mean, we were in there for the better part of an hour and we had no negative reactions.
That's awesome.
You know, we had some little pushback here and there, but you know, even when they tried to throw little darts at us, we just kind of like sidestepped them and we tried to keep it positive, tried to keep the experience great. And I think that's probably one of the things that led to us airing that, and the fact that we ran over this sucker with the steamroller.
And you broke the stage.
Oh, no, I didn't break in. Yeah, that was Shark Tank provided that driver. So that's on them, you know. But yeah, we practiced that darn thing so much we were out in front of the house for 2 or 3 days just running over coolers and figuring out how to make it work so that because there's no pauses, there's no do-overs, you know? And so the way that it all happened was 100% organic and authentic.
Just great.
But yeah, I will say.
Well, you guys handled it naturally. I mean, you didn't look like, you know, you watch some of these guys get on there and, you know, there's some nerves, but you guys handled it pretty well.
I don't know. I was nervous. It was.
You did good.
Thank you. Yeah. Part of it, I don't know if it was just the whole Shark Tank thing, or if it was that I was wearing a pink shirt on national TV or what.
Hey, nothing's wrong with pink, pal.
I know, but I definitely think black looks a little better on me. But no, it was definitely when you're walking through the whole thing and you're getting ready to go on and all that, it was definitely very nerve-wracking. And I will tell you, when you watch the show, you have the music and it's all jazzed up and it's all cut right and all that. When there's 2 double doors, as you see on the show, when the first set of double doors open, you start walking. And you're walking, and then you're having to put this smile on. You know, you're like, as you're walking, it's really not natural for me. But you're walking. And then when you get close to the second set of doors, they open, and that's where your body kind of forgets where you're at. because you walk up and you stop at the rug, and it's the first time you do get to kind of see it, like for just briefly beforehand, but not like you don't get to meeting the sharks or any of that kind of stuff. You stop on the rug, you have to stay there, and then they have to do, just like with the podcast and everything else, you have to do like take camera angles, all the TV magic that happens. You got to do stuff. And then there's no cool music. There's no intro music. It's not like the, WWE or whatever. It's just dead silent. And then you just hear someone say, and go. And then you just start. And for a second there, your body, or at least my mind was like, I feel like I'm watching the show. Like I'm looking at the sharks and I'm waiting for someone else to start. And then when they say and start, like your brain's like, oh, they mean me. Like I gotta do something. And so then you start, and then you just go through it. And
does it go like that?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember most of it.
You kind of just get into that mode.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know we were there for 40 something minutes, but I don't remember a lot of it. I mean, I remember everyone was fantastic. The team was great. The interview after was great. I mean, everybody was really cool with us. We enjoyed the experience. But I will say, to anyone else that ever does it, I would just say, remember, it's a show. That's the, without getting into things I'm not allowed to talk about, I would just say, remember, it's a show. Make good TV.
That's great.
That's what I would tell people.
That's great. Can you we've still got a little bit of time left. Can you allude to the aftermath?
Oh yeah, no, it's
okay.
Yeah. So I guess I should have mentioned that. Yeah. So it's aired. We aired on November, was it the 21st or 22nd this year? So a few weeks ago or a month ago. And it's episode 6. So I think they haven't put it on Hulu yet, but I think you can find it on abc.com. And then there's all kinds of critiques and criticism of it on Reddit and YouTube, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. but yeah,
there's always a skeptic.
I tell you, it's very humbling. Most of everything that was said was positive. I think the biggest challenge that we're going to have to face is our retail. But I think what I try to remind people is this right here is about 6 pairs of Crocs in terms of material. Think about how much you pay for one pair of Crocs. So you just got to remember that. But anyways, so we did the deal on TV with Mr. Damon John. And we're still going through the after part of that process, because obviously on TV, first time he's ever seen us, first time we've seen him. Not, it's kind of more of a handshake on TV. And then there's a process that has to happen after the fact where they got to make sure you're telling, because I could say anything up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they got to make sure you're telling the truth. And I got $100 million in sales, and it's $1 billion industry. Yeah, they don't know. So we're still going through that process, but I will say, it's been a very good process. They've been very engaged. It's not like we did the show and haven't heard from anybody. So it's been,
congratulations.
Thanks. No, it's a good experience. I would definitely recommend anyone that ever feels like it's the right thing to do, that they should definitely apply and do it.
Awesome. Well, to our viewers, one more plug. Make sure you check out foamisfun.com.
Foamisfun.com is great.
And give them some likes on social as well. Show some love for a great cooler. And Chad, thank you for being on today. It's a pleasure as always, friend.
Always. I'm sure we'll do this again.
We will.
Hey, don't forget your cooler.
Oh, thank you, sir, and thank you for the great gift and the perfect color too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.